Hi there, Giovanni here at Fraptools, and today we're going to explore the arabesques. The arabesque is a technique for the modular synthesizer that involves the use of an analog shift register. And an analog shift register, to sum up, is a circuit, is a kind of a cascaded sample and hold that with multiple outputs that at every timing pulse, it samples a new value and shifts the value from output 1 to output 2 and the one on output 2 to output 3. And so it creates simultaneous streams of values, one after the other. And if you patch such values to as many oscillators, you will have a note playing on oscillator 1, and then when oscillator 1 plays another note, oscillator 2 plays the note previously played by oscillator 1. So, and so on for as many oscillators you have. So it is very easy with such technique to have a very dense and cohesive harmonic structure, because it sounds like you have, say, 3 melodies offset by one note from one another. There is plenty of videos, so go check them out here on YouTube. But in the system here, we don't have an analog shift register, but we have the USTA sequencer. And we can have something similar. So I'm going to start with a sequence here on pattern 1, which is this. And then on pattern 1, on track 2, I have the same sequence. And the same goes for track 3. I'm using the 2 Brainso oscillators and this Falistri here. They are playing a triangle wave, and besides some phasing, I have basically 3 sequences in unison. And now what I'm going to do is using the rotate pattern function. So I'm going to hold the track button and then rotate the navigation encoder. And this is track 2, which is offset by 1 stage. And then I'm going to repeat the same for track 3, but I'm going to rotate it by 2 stages instead of 1. 1 and 2. I can add a pinch of reverb. And perhaps I can use different timbres for the oscillators to make them more distinct. So I can change the oscillator shape here on Falistri. And I can use a sawtooth here. It might require some level adjustment. And the final output here on the Brainso. Then I can drop one sequence. I can animate the sequence by using, for example, Sapel's fluctuating random voltage patched to the timbre modulation bus. Now this technique has two major downsides as opposed to the original shift register based arabesque, which is one, it is limited to what you program. Whereas, for example, here, if I want my track 1 to be shifted over track 2 and 3, I need to know it beforehand, and I need to offset all the patterns accordingly. And whereas on the shift register, it doesn't care. The patch works regardless of the input. I have just one stream of inputs, and it can change every time. It can be even completely randomized, and the analog shift register just takes care of passing the new values from one output to the other and the other. And the second drawback is that here my trick is limited to just one pattern, because the pattern rotate function, as the name suggests, rotate just the current pattern. And now we must make another distinction, because the pattern rotate, I'm going to demonstrate it. If I have a shorter pattern of, let's say, 8th note, this technique is no longer going to work, because this is shifting, the pattern rotate shifts the stage content, including the length attribute. It shifts the CVA, CVB, length, gate A, and gate B. So, let's do it with just 2 tracks. If I rotate my pattern 2, it's going to stay the same, because now it is starting from the second stage, but they are still playing the same note. And the same is true for pattern 3. I can even shift it I can rotate it all the way around, but it's still gonna be in sync with pattern 1. So I need to have all my stages open so that I can experience a different starting point. Still, if we keep those 2 caveats in mind, we can achieve some interesting rhythmic and harmonic textures that show a very consistent behavior. If I just keep in mind that I must use all my 16 stages, I can create some syncopated structures, even in odd time signatures. So for example, this is 22 time units long, but I can make it up to 32, let's say. And I can keep an eye on the total pattern length to make sure that they somehow stick to a pattern. Now I'm gonna clone my track 1 over track 2 and 3. And they are in unison now. So I'm gonna rotate pattern 2 and pattern 3. And I can play with different gate structures as well. And add some variations, some differences between the first track and the second one. And that's it. I hope you find this technique useful, and I will see you next time.